exchanging pleasantries and discussing. One would think that they will be discussing about the lives and times of President Muhammadu Buhari and the impact of his demise to the nation. Also, from what we are seeing here at the airport, we understand that once the remains of the former president arrive, there will be a military reception of him. And after that military reception, his body will be conveyed to Daura for the funeral proper. And it's not yet clear if his remains will be conveyed by road or with a helicopter. But what we can see on ground, we can see various numbers of military helicopter choppers here at the airport. So one would think that once the remains of the former president arrives here at the Umaru Musa Yar'Adua International Airport, his body will be conveyed with an helicopter straight to Daura. And we also understand that there are other dignitaries at his family residence in Daura waiting for his remains to arrive so that the ceremony, the funeral can commence proper. All right, we can see dignitaries moving towards the other flank of the tarmac. We don't really know, it's not yet clear where they are going to, but they are moving to the other flank of the tarmac, maybe to receive another dignitary or another foreign head of state. Across the airport and across Katsina town and Daura, there's watertight security, heavy military presence from Katsina town down to Daura. And also, we've been informed that as soon as the remains of the former president touch down this airport, there will be some sort of procession. His remains will be carried all through the flank of the airports before it's being moved to the chopper or a hearse and being conveyed straight to Daura. So that's pretty much it from the Umaru Musa Yar'Adua International Airport. The President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has arrived, and everyone here and across the nation are waiting for the arrival of the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Kashim Shettima, along with the remains of the former President Muhammadu Buhari and his family members. Back to you in the studio.
And you're still watching Newsday here. Thank you so much, Nisi, for that update. We are still looking at live footage from Katsina as dignitaries and many more are arriving for the funeral of the late Muhammadu Buhari, former president of Nigeria. Nisi, if you have more updates to give us, we are welcome for them. Can you give us the mood, describe the mood on ground as you see it live from Katsina?
All right. I've just been informed that the remains of the former president has arrived at the Umaru Musa Yar'Adua Airport, and that's where you see that crowd rushing to. So it's been official and it can be confirmed to our viewers that the remains of the former president Muhammadu Buhari has arrived at the Umaru Musa Yar'Adua Airport. Yeah, and also the vice president is here. I've been informed, and the remains of the former president came in on the Nigerian Air Force aircrafts carrying the remains of the former president. So the remains of the former president has arrived. I can see that's my camera. If you can pan, that's the vice president Kashim Shettima. He has arrived at the Umaru Musa Yar'Adua Airport. I'm very sure he's moving straight to meet his principal, the person of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So we have live pictures of the Vice President Kashim Shettima, heading towards the waiting room where the President is seated, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I'm sure he's going there to give updates and feedback to the President. And I'm sure the President is going to welcome him back to the country. And from there, they'll move straight to the tarmac and the procession can commence in earnest. So I can report from the I can tell our viewers and report that the coffin of the former president has arrived, and that's the information we are getting. So we await the full commencement of the ceremony. I can see the First Lady. Can you pan to the First Lady? That's the First Lady, yeah? The person of Yemi Tinubu moving towards the coffin of the late president. So any moment from now, the full ceremony will kickstart in earnest.
Well, Nisi, can you tell us, we know that the Prime Minister of Niger is in the country, but can you tell us if we are expecting any other heads of state or, dignitaries from other, probably West African countries and other foreign nations?
Well, that would be difficult to put into proper perspective now, because I'm also being informed that some of them did arrive, they landed in Kano, in the Kano airport, before proceeding straight to Daura, while some of them arrived here at the Katsina airport. So for the ones we've seen with our eyes, we've seen the Prime Minister of Niger arrive here at this airport, but I'm also being informed that other dignitaries and other heads of state arrived at the Kano airport. So once the ceremony commenced proper, that's the funeral rites of the former president in Daura, we're able to get a full picture of who graced the occasion. But for now, what we can update our viewers is that the remains of the former president, President Muhammadu Buhari, has arrived at Umaru Musa Yar'Adua Airport, and the vice president, who walked into the holding area a few moments ago, has gone there to brief Mr. President. And we're expecting them to come out, and once they come out, the ceremony, the military reception, will kickstart in earnest. And after that, they will be proceeding with the remains of the former president to Daura for the funeral proper.
And what we are doing now is a waiting game, as we just have heard from Nisi Gabriel, our live correspondent from Katsina, that the remains of the former president have arrived in Katsina in Daura. And we also saw images of the vice president, Kashim Shettima, walking across the tarmac to where we assume update the president about his arrival and about the arrival of the remains of the former president, Muhammadu Buhari. We also saw images of the president's wife, First Lady, walking towards this group of gentlemen that we see here. We are waiting for updates from that, but we do know that the remains of the former president have arrived. Nisi, thank you so much for your coverage. It's a lot of discussion about the amount of logistics it would have taken to pull such a feat like this off in such a short amount of time, knowing as we are in Nigeria and how things often tend to go haywire. There's a lot of praise for the organization of such a last-minute state funeral for a former president. Nisi, can you give us your opinions and commentary on what you've seen so far regarding the organization and tight security that is being given to honor the late former president of Nigeria?
Well, just like the president had directed, he directed the full state honors in honor of the former president. And it has not fallen short of that expectation so far. We've seen watertight security all across Katsina and its environs and down to Daura. And also, we've been seeing aircrafts, military aircrafts, patrolling around the premises around Katsina town. So that gives us a sense that the former president has been given is being given a full honor. It seems the president is coming out alongside the vice president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and any moment from now, I think they are moving towards the coffin. Yeah, these are live pictures of. Can you zoom in? These are live pictures of the vice president, Kashim Shettima, and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu moving towards the coffin of former President Muhammadu Buhari. And it is expected that once they approach the coffin, the vice president and the pallbearers will bring the coffin forward. And it will be received by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I can see former Vice President Yemi Osinbajo there. I can see the Prime Minister of Niger Republic. All top dignitaries moving towards the coffin of the former President Muhammadu Buhari. So any moment from now, we are about to witness a grand reception by the military. The pallbearers will be bringing out the coffin, and I can tell you today is a historic moment. We are seeing live pictures from the Umaru Musa Yar'Adua International Airport. And I know many can't wait for the coffin to be brought out and the full procession commencing in earnest. So the president and the vice president, alongside other dignitaries, they have gone to the Nigeria Air Force aircraft. They are around there, and we can't really have a clear view from where we are standing, but we do know that most likely they will be saying their prayers before the coffin, before it's being brought out. At least they'll be paying their last respects, some sort of respect before it's being brought out. And today marks a historic day for Nigeria as we witness the final laying to rest of a man who has been described by many as a humble person, someone with integrity, someone who lived a forthright life. And he will be greatly missed by the people of Katsina State because they love him dearly. And his hometown Daura love him even more. So he will be greatly missed. As you can hear, the military are about to commence. Any moment from now, the coffin will be brought out for the whole world to see. These are live pictures from the Umaru Musa Yar'Adua International Airport. And we can report to our viewers that the remains of the former President Muhammadu Buhari, has arrived. The President of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is here. The Vice President has also arrived. And other top dignitaries are here. And any moment from now, the full military procession will commence.
Thank you so much, Nisi Gabriel. Our correspondent has been at the Umaru Musa Yar'Adua Airport in Katsina, where he's reported that the body of former President Muhammadu Buhari has arrived in the country. Well, joining us now from our Abuja studio is Arise News analyst Mahmoud Jega, who will be talking to us about the legacies, the life and legacy of the late President Muhammadu Buhari, as well as today's event. Well, thank you so much for joining us on Newsday.
Thank you very much, Madam.
So how do you think Muhammadu Buhari will be remembered in Nigerian history, particularly in terms of his contributions to the country's development and stability?
Okay, you see, the late General Muhammadu Buhari had a very long career in the public service. He was governor, he was minister, he was head of state, he was president, he was chairman. So along the way, he earned many epithets, you see, some for life, like he's tall, ramrod stiff, hardly smiles, Those epithets he earned for life, was military bearing and all that. And then when he was military head of state, he earned many more epithets together with his then deputy Major General Tunde Idiamo, that they were tough, arrested hundreds of politicians. They enacted many draconian decrees, backdated some of them. The war against indiscipline was very tough, and all kinds of things. They criminalized, they executed cocaine pushers, all kinds of things. But in the end, I think people thought they were really determined and principled and helped the country. And very importantly, after he was overthrown and was kept in detention for 3 years, in Africa at that time, the commonest allegation against any government that was overthrown in a military coup was corruption. But after he was overthrown and detained for 3 years, there was no allegation of corruption against him or his administration, which was very significant. And then in later years, he came to chair the Petroleum Trust Fund, which was quite efficient in its intervention in infrastructure. So there were allegations that it was not totally balanced, but at least it was very efficient and was not accused of corruption. And then from 2002, when he entered politics, he acquired more epithets, like he was determined. He contested for the presidency 3 times, didn't win, finally won on the 4th occasion. And then when he became president after 2015, then even more epithets, that he was principled, he was, how do you put it, Spartan, and focused. But then there were many other negative epithets, like, for example, Baba go slow, because it took him time to constitute cabinet and make appointments, and even started acting. There were allegations that his appointments, although he himself was still thought to be not corrupt, but there were allegations against some of the people around him. And then there was the element of bad luck. There was economic recession during his time, and there was also the COVID-19 pandemic that came within his time. And then there was also element of bad advice and bad decisions, like, for example, the last-minute attempt to change currency on the eve of elections, which was really quite controversial. So, as I said, it was a long public service career, but on the whole, I think he will be remembered quite well, especially because he escaped allegations of corruption, which is the most common thing against African leaders.
Thank you so much for that. And his military career spanned several decades, including his role in the Nigerian Civil War as military head of state. How, in your opinion, do you think that these experiences and the authoritarian style of his 1980s regime, how did it influence his approach to governance when he did become a democratic president?
Yeah, there were elements of that. Although, these soldiers tend to be different. Some of the soldiers are almost civilians. If you think like maybe General Babangida or General Abdul Salami, they were not, they didn't seem to be very military inclined. But some like Abacha and also like General Buhari, the military thing in them was very vivid. And when he became civilian president, it was clear that he had some problems adjusting to the democratic structures, in particular working with the National Assembly, because he was used to the Supreme Military Council in the 80s, which was 22 members and which he completely dominated and, according to some of his colleagues, even overruled on some occasions. Now, you cannot easily overrule the National Assembly, but he fought it in many respects, like to stop budget padding, and many other things seem to be corrupt. Then, even with the political party and politicians, he was not what you call a politician. He didn't seem very comfortable among politicians and political parties. I think he saw them as essentially rowdy and corrupt, but he had to adjust to them. I think he did so fairly well, but you could always see the military element in him. You're not fond of politicians, and but he got along finally fairly well.
Okay, so I'd like us to talk about, the former president's legacy in terms of promoting democracy, good governance, and regional cooperation in West Africa. How do you think he performed on that front?
Okay, one of the allegations, one of the negative epithets that he earned during his presidency was that he was very fond of travel. That he was always going here and there. But I'm sure he saw it as part of the effort to consolidate Nigeria's leadership position, not only in West Africa, but on the African continent and on the international plane. So it was necessary for a president to attend all kinds of ECOWAS meetings and visit neighbors and go to Addis Ababa for African Union Summit and also go to United Nations. And the earliest trips that he made as president was to neighboring countries.
Mahmoud Jaga, we have to interrupt you here. We have updates live from Katsina where the body of the late president has just arrived. Thank you so much for joining us here on Newsday and for your contributions. We will head back to Nisi Gabriel, who is live at the airport as we see live images of individuals, dignitaries, and family members of the late president arriving and receiving his body. Nisi, can you give us an update on what has happened in the last 5 minutes? Well, until it seems that we do not have Nisi right now. Until he comes back, we will continue to look at the live images from Katsina. Right now, we are at the airport where the body of the former president arrived shortly. We also saw some images of what I assume are the former president's family, the Buhari extended family on ground as well. We do know that the president is on ground as well, and the vice president. And we have Nisi Gabriel back in correspondence. Nisi, we know it's a lot going on ground right now. Please give us an update of what is transpiring.
All right, a few moments ago, family members moved out from the aircraft, and the First Lady of Nigeria, Senator Tinubu, was seen consoling the widow, Aisha Buhari, as they walked away from the aircraft. Now, as you can see, we have live pictures of the widow, Aisha Buhari, alongside our close family members. These are live pictures. The First Lady of Nigeria, Tinubu, is also here, seen with her, trying to console her. These are sorrowful times for the family and not the best of times for them because they've lost a father, they've lost a strong pillar in their family. As you can see, they are all putting on black regalia and it depicts mourning. They're in the mourning period, and they're exchanging pleasantries with governors of states, senior government officials, why the protocol people try to file them together as they prepare for the commencement of the military procession. Well, as we have reported earlier, the remains of the former president have arrived, and we can see his family members, although they are backing the cameras, but Aisha Buhari, the widow, is there. We can see the First Lady close with her, trying to console her, because this is a moment of grief for the family, for her, because she has lost not just her husband, but a father to many. And these are not the best of times for this particular family. And the prayers of everyone, the whole of Nigerians, are with them in this grieving time.
Well, Nisi, I know you've interviewed...
Well, why we expect the...
Nisi, I know that you've interviewed a number of dignitaries who have come to, pay condolences and, of course, attend the funeral of the late former president. I'm wondering what common theme that they all have regarding the former president that they say will be his legacy. What do they remember fondly about the former president the most?
That's a good question, and I've asked same questions to almost everybody I interviewed here. And the answer is not far-fetched. You get response like, he'll be remembered for his modest living. You get response like, he'll be remembered for being truthful, living a life of integrity. You also get response like, he's been remembered for being an anti-corruption crusader. So the late President Muhammadu Buhari means a lot to different people. And we also heard, I think it was the former, I think it was the Minister of Information that said he hopes generations to come will read about him and will learn from him and will learn from his modest way of life. So the late president means a lot to many people. And at this moment, at this point, we can see the protocol are trying to arrange members of his immediate families, his wife, I'm sure his nephew and other people are there. So the military procession parade is about to commence, and any moment from now, we'll get to see the coffin being brought out of the aircraft, and the full military reception will commence. But before I get back to you, I think let's just have a rundown of the early life and military career of late President Muhammadu Buhari. I know many people don't know that he is the 23rd child of his late father, and he was born in Daura in Katsina. And also, his early life training spanned Nigeria, the UK, and as a military officer, he traveled for training across the US, the UK. So he has a life as a military person, he has a life as a civilian, as a democratic elected head of state, and many people will remember him fondly for being a man who lived modest.
Well, Nisi, from the pictures we are seeing here, we can see that the coffin of the late former president has been brought down from the aircraft now. Can you talk to us about that and what the next steps will be?
Yes, we are not allowed to go to that particular position. That's why we don't have that feed. But I'm very sure the coffin will be brought to where we are standing now, and we're able to get a clearer picture of it. So the coffin is being brought out now, and what that signals is that any moment from now, there will be a procession, a full state honor, military reception in honor of the former president. Yes, I can see movement from that particular area, and they are approaching towards us where this ceremony and this reception will officially take place. And as you can see from our own live feeds, we can see families hugging themselves in sorrow, trying to comfort, can you zoom in? Trying to comfort themselves, because like I said earlier, these are not the best of times for members of the family. You can see they are hugging themselves, some of them are crying, consoling each other. Well, I can see the federal government delegation. If my cameraman can pan to us, the federal government delegation heading towards us, and any moment from now, the procession will kickstart. The coffin is being brought out from the aircraft. As we reported earlier, we can see service chiefs also here. The governors are also here. So any moment from now, the procession will kickstart. And I'm being told it won't take long because they have to convey the body to Daura for the funeral proper.
And Nisi, we were earlier just commending how seemingly organized it was maybe about 20, 30 minutes ago before the body arrived. But it seems as more individuals have arrived on the tarmac and the body has been, is in movement, the crowds have gotten a little bit chaotic from what we saw earlier. What are you witnessing on ground? How would you describe the security situation and how tightly guarded things might be, seeing as there's a lot of bodies that have materialized on the screen in the last few minutes?
Well, like you rightly said, yes, the numbers of persons on the tarmac has greatly increased. We can even see people coming in just to see for themselves the remains of the former president while he's being driven on the motorcade to the helicopter. So, well, in terms of security, yes, security has been beefed up so tight. We can see security officials escorting the vehicle. Also, the president is advancing towards us. So that signals commencement of this ceremony. And across Katsina metropolis and also in Daura town, there's heightened security presence. So it shows that truly the president has kept to his word. And we'll also observe up until the end of this funeral ceremony to see if truly former President Muhammadu Buhari will be given full state honors. Of course, he's already been given full state honors, as we can see right now. Live pictures are showing that.
Well, but then, Missy, I'm wondering, do you know if there are any arrangements that will be made for the public to pay their respects to the former president?
All right, we can see the coffin is being brought out. The coffin is being brought out now, and the military procession is about to commence. Security operatives, as you can see, are trying to disperse crowd from covering, from coming to the center of attraction where the whole event is happening. So the coffin is being brought out gradually, and any moment from now, the full guard of honor will commence their procession and their parade in honor of the former president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari.
Well, Nisi, I asked if there will be arrangements for the public to pay their respects to the late former president. Do you know of any such arrangements?
Well, I'm sure many people will be waiting at his Daura family residence to observe and see for themselves before he is being buried. But aside that, according to Islamic rites, I don't think there will be room for that. Because once they get to Daura, the burial ceremony will commence in earnest. I can see an ambulance right behind me. An ambulance has been brought close to the families, close to where the family of the former president, the late former president, is standing. And as you can see, the military procession is about to kickstart in earnest. These are live pictures. The coffin of the former president is being rolled gradually for the military to commence their grand reception in his honor.
Right. And we have many different angles that we are getting the footage from. This is the front angle of the military officers in procession with the body of the late former President Muhammadu Buhari. It is a solemn time. We have been covering this for the last couple of hours. Nisi Gabriel, our correspondent in Katsina, doing such a great job. There's quite a lot of people on hand. It seems that the procession is about to start in earnest as the music picks up. Let's listen in.
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. Okay. Well, these are live pictures from Umaru Musa Yar'Adua International Airport. The remains of the former president, President Muhammadu Buhari, is gradually being rolled on the red carpet to the motorcade and the ambulance where he will be conveyed to Daura for the funeral. Right behind and beside the coffin of the late former president are governors, senior government officials, heads of states of African countries, all here to pay their final respect to a great leader. It's also important to note that President Muhammadu Buhari, survived by his second wife Aisha Buhari and 10 children. He had 5 from each of his marriage. Well, it is indeed an emotional moment for many people right here at the Umaru Musa International Airport, even myself. It's indeed an emotional moment for me too, because as we can see, these are the remains of former President Muhammadu Buhari. The military are here giving him full honors, paying their last final respect to late President Muhammadu Buhari. This is a president that will strongly be remembered for his strong anti-corruption policies, including the war against indiscipline. He is also a president that will be remembered trying to boost agriculture, homegrown feeding in this country. He is a president that will be remembered greatly for his service to Nigeria, his service to the people of Katsina, and the numerous he has brought to his hometown, Daura. It's also important to note that former President Muhammadu Buhari was instrumental to the establishment of the University of Transportation in Daura, the Air Force Teaching Hospital there, also instrumental to the train route that passed through Daura, which is expected to lead up to Niger, and several other developmental strides he brought to his people. We can see, I can see the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the Deputy Speaker, the Deputy Senate President, all advancing to cars because they will be accompanying the motorcade to Daura. I can also see billionaire businessman, the person of Aliko Dangote. I can see the Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbajabiamila, and several other prominent key figures here, observing and also paying their last respects to a towering figure, someone who lived a simple and humble life. It is indeed an emotional time here at the airport, a soulful time for his families, his friends, northern Nigeria as a whole. It can be said that this is indeed the end of an era, as we witness and watch live pictures of the remains of the former President Muhammadu Buhari, being rolled alongside a grand reception by the military. And from here, they'll be proceeding to Daura, where he will be buried. Former president had several unsuccessful presidential attempts while in his bid to become Nigeria president. For president in 2003, in 2007 and 2011, before emerging as the candidate in 2015. And that was when he finally defeated incumbent President Goodluck Jonathan, thereafter becoming the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He served for 8 years. Despite the divergent views about his leadership, one thing is the people of Katsina will greatly miss President Muhammadu Buhari. He was not just a president, he was seen as someone who had a cult-like following, unprecedented cult-like following in the history of Nigeria, loved by many, criticized by many too, but he has left a deep void in the hearts and minds of many people in Katsina, Daura, and Nigeria at large. What we are witnessing today is a historic moment. It's one that will go down the annals of history because former President Muhammadu Buhari had many friends across the nook and cranny of Nigeria, across several divides. And right now, I can see the ambulance has been opened. And what this tells us is that the convoy will ride by road straight down to Daura, because I can see several motorcades, several convoys lined up, and the remains of the former president is being ushered into the ambulance, military ambulance, for further transportation or conveyance to Daura for his final funeral, and where he will be his final resting place. Emotional moments, sorrowful moments, and not the best of times for the family, the immediate family of the former president. All the dignitaries are moving towards their vehicle now so that they can accompany the body of the former president down to Daura. And it's also important to note that from Katsina metropolis to Daura will take about 45 to 50 minutes. It's a 45 to 50 minutes drive from Katsina town to Daura. So in the next 45 minutes, we expect, or less than that, since it's a convoy, we expect the remains of the former president to be in Daura for the final funeral. And the former president will be put to rest according to the Islamic funeral rites. We understand that the Emir of Daura is already on ground and he will be conducting the funeral rites across the country. And also here in Katsina, the nation's national flag is flying at half-mast in honor of the former president.
those invited will also follow the ambulance, while others, of course,
You can see the remains of
final journey.
the military ambulance, and protocol are trying to make sure everything takes shape as the convoy proceeds straight to Daura. So in the next 30 minutes or 40 minutes thereabouts, we expect the funeral to kickstart proper in Daura, and our correspondent Ayo Adenaye is on ground to give us
That first group
the full details of the funeral rites.
and ministers lining, the path that
These are live pictures from the Umar Musa Yar'Adua International Airport. You can see security personnel
this is not all
giving cover to the ambulance and other dignitaries as they take position, they file up to move straight to
funeral rites will be
the body of the former president.
because we expect kingsmen in Daura as well as people who have worked with him, members of the family, because others
Several dignitaries we've interviewed have paid glowing tributes to the former president,
as we're looking at the pictures, one
a
of
towering figure. They described him as a towering figure.
the economic commentators
And
as well as development experts
we've been told by the villa security to position our camera on the parade.
unlike late President Muhammadu Buhari, who has served his country territorially and taking his final journey.
Okay, you can see the governor of Katsina State trying to enter his convoy. The governor of Katsina State is trying to enter his convoy so that they can move.
Now.
Okay.
Well, you've been watching the precedent ceremony that will lead to the funeral of the former Nigerian president, Muhammadu Buhari. His body arrived in the country a while ago and it was given full military honors befitting the status of the late Grand Commander of the Order of the Federal Republic at the Umaru Musa Yar'Adua Airport in Katsina State. The procession will now move to his hometown, Daura, where the late former president will be buried according to Islamic rite. Well, we now join Arise News correspondent Ayo Adenaye in Daura, Katsina State, the hometown of the former president, to bring us updates about activities going on there. Ayo, thank you so much for joining us on Newsday. Give us an update on what's happening in Daura.
Well, while we wait for Ayo to be connected, we are watching live footage from Katsina, where for the last few moments we have witnessed the procession of the military and the late former president's body as well. We saw it getting put on to a military ambulance and driven out of the premises to the final resting place for where the funeral will be taking place. It's a lot of activity that has been going on in the last couple of minutes. A lot of dignitaries and family members of the deceased on the tarmac witnessing and preparing for the body to arrive in Katsina. As soon as the body arrived in the plane, it was taken off and there was a full military procession, a quite solemn event to witness. It's not often a former president of the country dies and is buried, and we watch the funeral procession live on TV. Well, we're still watching images of the military on the tarmac. Everyone is getting ready to move to Daura, where the final funeral rites will be performed.
Well, Buhari's body, which was draped in the Nigerian flag, was brought down from the Nigerian Air Force aircraft by officials of the Nigerian military at the Umaru Musa Yar'Adua International Airport in Katsina. His remains, of course, will be taken to Daura, where he'll be buried after receiving a military farewell like we just witnessed. Some of the positive legacies of the former president include his anti-corruption efforts, his infrastructure development, notable projects including the Lagos-Ibadan Railway and the Second Niger Bridge, his social welfare programs, the NPower conditional cash transfer, amongst others. Well, I understand we now have Ayo Adenaye, our Arise News correspondent in Daura, Katsina State, the hometown of former President Muhammadu Buhari, to bring us updates about activities going on there. Ayo, thank you so much for joining us. Kindly tell us what's happening where you are.
Good afternoon, Hawa. Good afternoon, Temitope. Well, one of the updates we brought earlier and one of the questions that we asked is the issue that has to do with the space regarding where the funeral prayer will be held. How will the space be managed? And one of the way I responded was that the security operatives have been able to, barricade the area to only allow the VIP. But for now, there seems to be a change from what we earlier thought it would be. Presently, where I'm standing is the helipad place where the chopper, if probably he's coming by a chopper, because we were told that probably the remains might be brought by road or they might bring him by chopper. But the update now is that everybody is now allowed to enter this particular place. And as you can just see right behind me, you see almost the whole people in the community have been allowed inside this particular place. And I want to believe this must have been through the influence of the Emir of Daura, His Royal Highness Umar Farouk, because when he came, with his own entourage and with a whole lot of the people of the community who came, and the security operatives were trying to stop them from entering. I want to believe with his appeal to the fact that this man that we are talking about, he has lived for the poor, according to what he has mentioned, that this man has lived for the poor, and since he has lived for the poor, it is expected that the poor also should witness, the funeral prayer and the funeral. So from what we have gathered so far, it seems the funeral prayer will now be held here, because here is very, very spacious enough, I would say, to probably contain, the whole community or the whole people that will be coming. So the burial or the funeral prayer now is not only to be witnessed by VIPs or by politicians, so to speak, but even the downtrodden in quote, and even the people of the community. So we can see that just by my left-hand side, you see people also, just by my right-hand side, you can see people also trooping in and going towards the tarmac. Probably from this indication, it seems like the remains will be brought in with the chopper, but the people here have also prepare themselves for the funeral prayer. And when I say they prepare for themselves for the funeral prayer, we've seen them, observing the ablution that is expected of them to be carried out while preparing for an Islamic burial rite. So for what we have gathered so far, we understand that the president remains is already in Katsina, and any moment from now, it should arrive Daura, his hometown. But the joy for these people and their happiness is now that they can witness, the funeral prayer of a man they so much cherish, because it has been a whole grumbling outside, and a lot of them have been expressing worry. You can see how there is a lot of movement in the front of the camera, and it's practically impossible for us to control them. But the joy is that they are so much happy to the fact that they can witness the burial of a man whom has contributed a lot to the society. But the place is very, very jam-packed, and nobody is stopping anybody from entering here. The door is freely open, and everybody is coming in here to witness the funeral prayer.
And it seems that it's a lot of men that are on ground right now to witness this funeral for the former president. Ayo, can you tell us what, from your first-hand account of being on ground, what you think that the former president would be remembered for, and some of the fonder memories that the individuals in Katsina State might have?
Well, of course, the former president, I can categorically say that he will surely be missed in this community, and he will surely be remembered for a lot of things. I said it earlier that his influence, or for the fact that he came out from this town, Daura, has really brought, significant development to this particular community, and the fear, that some of the community or some of the people in this community are nursing is, will they still continue to enjoy some of the benefits they've enjoyed? I've said it earlier on our various live crossing, that the people of this community enjoy what we can call 24 hours power supply. The whole areas, the whole roads are tarred, the street lights are working, some are on solar, some are on normal electricity, and everything seems very neat, very calm, and very beautiful to behold. So I think his influence, and there are a lot of institutions, the Muhammadu Buhari University of Transportation is here, the Federal University Daura is also here. We have a lot of monuments or a lot of tertiary institutions that have been brought here, or there are a lot of development that has been introduced here on the influence of the former late president. So I think the people of the community will wait to see, probably after a month, probably after 2 months, probably after a year, that will this benefit that we have enjoyed, will it continue, or they go back to the status quo?
Since you're live there in Daura, can you give us an idea of how far it is from the original airport where the motorcade was originally seen leaving? Do you have any idea of how long it would take for them to arrive?
Well, like I said, the journey should not take more than 50 minutes on a normal day. But we are foreseeing, because of the crowd that may want to cheer him if he's coming by road, if the remains will be brought by road, due to the crowd that will want to be on the way to cheer him, to pay their last respect to him, it might likely take longer than expected. But if the remains will be brought in here through chopper, that means probably in 20 minutes time, they should be able to arrive here with the remains. But the Emir and other people who needs to be here to receive the remains of the former late president are already on ground. So with all what we have seen on ground, it indicates that all is now set for the funeral prayer.
There's been a change of plans and that the public are now going to be allowed into the vicinity. I'm just wondering if you can tell us what the security arrangement is regarding that. Have they doubled security, or is there already adequate preparation for that?
Well, like I said earlier, the initial plan was the fact that only VIPs, very important persons, would be allowed, to the funeral ground, because the funeral ground was earlier the other side, not even this particular place where we are standing. It was supposed to be outside of this particular place, but I said it earlier that, the place has very limited space, which can only contain probably the president and some of the dignitaries, former governors, former ministers, and top politicians who will be coming to pay their last respect. But this will mean that the people of the community have been alienated, to witness the funeral prayer. And there's a change of plan to allow everybody to come here. And I want to believe the security personnel will work with the mindset that these people come here because of the love they have for Buhari, and there shouldn't be any cause for alarm, there shouldn't be any cause for harm. But if you can see, they are all stationed, security personnel are all stationed in front of the people who have come here, and they are ensuring that nobody leaves, or behave in a disorderly manner. So the security personnel are very well stationed in every part of this helipad to ensure that, nobody, break the law as is expected. So the security operatives have been working in a mature way and ensuring that things are done the way it should be done.
And these kinds of situations, things can get quite chaotic on ground, as we saw earlier. So it's really nice to see that there's a level of organization on the behalf of the individuals who have come there to pay their respects, and the security operatives who are obviously working very hard to make sure that today goes off without a hitch and no security issues. And obviously the weather is holding up as well. Mother Nature is another factor in this whole event. It's good to see that the weather is holding up. Ayo, can you tell us, from what you've observed and from being a journalist of yourself, what would be the lasting legacy that Buhari has left for this nation, and indeed the citizens of Katsina State in particular?
All right, our former president, has left a lasting legacy, not just for the people of Daura, like you've mentioned, but also for the country as a whole. And with when we were speaking this morning, a lot of people were talking about some of his social intervention program that benefited a lot of people, especially in the area of Empower, in the area of trader money, and a host of other special intervention programs that he introduced to making funds available for the aged, and a whole lot of such intervention that he has brought for the people. And that is Nigeria as a whole. Special intervention is one of those key things that the people or Nigerians will largely remember him for, appreciate him for. But for the people of Daura who have, like I pointed out earlier, who have really enjoyed a lot of benefits. I said it earlier that a lot of the developmental projects have been brought into this town. The Federal Polytechnic Daura is here, the Muhammadu Buhari University of Transportation is here, and other developmental projects that have been brought to this particular location. So it's going to be something that the people will watch to see, especially for Nigerians. Yes, the government has, Buhari has left power for about 2 to 3 years ago, and so it's left in the hands of President Tinubu now. But for the people of Daura, despite that he has left power for 2 years ago, they've continued to enjoy his presence. Every time he's in the community, they know that yes, there is somebody that is here, and they feel his impact. But now that he has gone, they will hope that this legacy that he has left will Nigerians, or would the government able to sustain the legacy, so that he can continue, they can continue to enjoy the fact that they have a son who once ruled this country.
Well, Ayo, we understand, that the convoy is now en route Daura, and it is by road. So your expectation of a chopper, it will be by road. But then in the meantime, I'm wondering if you've spotted any foreign VIP or head of state in Daura that will be attending the funeral of the late former president. Well,
for now, we've not spotted any. Probably they are in Katsina, and they will be coming together with his remains. So I learned most of them landed in Katsina. So hopefully they will join, they will join the remains by road to be here. But for now, it's just the emir, former ministers who served during his government, former governors, Rivers State Governor, former Rivers State Governor, former Ogun State Governor, former Kaduna State Governor, and others have all been here. Former Borno State Governor, emirs, House of Rep members are already here. Those are those that we have cited, but for now we've not cited any foreign president or national here.
And we did cite many of those that you just said on the tarmac earlier on when we were covering with Nisi Gabriel. It seems that Buhari's military career, it spanned several decades, and the military today definitely showed up and showed out, so to speak, as one of theirs is being laid to rest. Can you give your observations on the military that are present and what their mood seems like? We also saw a few of them bringing out their telephones, as modern technology would have it, to record the procession, as it seems they have a really close relationship with their former military commander. Could you tell us more about that?
Well, like you pointed out, the military have really been on top of the game, as it's been said. They've been on top of the game, and if our camera can just see you, every corner of this particular place where we find ourselves, far, far behind, they have their armor tanks are there. They have other equipment that they have brought here to ensure that, a man who was once a former head of state, who have also served in different capacity as a military, get the desired respect that he deserves. So their presence here truly shows that, they value him, truly shows that they owe him a lot of respect for what he has contributed. Down in his house, the same thing has been replicated there. And over here also, from what we have seen so far, it truly proves that they are really on ground to pay their last respect to this man that have contributed a lot while serving as a military officer.
Well, okay, Ayo, I know that today is a public holiday all over the country, not just in Katsina where you are, but I'm wondering in what other ways will the Katsina state government be honoring the former late president?
Well, I want to believe that will probably be unveiled after the burial. But I was speaking with one of our correspondents. I was telling him even the government house is already named after President Muhammadu Buhari. So we'll wait to see what other monuments, what other places will be named after him. Like I said, we have the Federal Polytechnic Daura, and a lot of people are already projecting that the Polytechnic might probably be named after him as Muhammadu Buhari Federal Polytechnic. So I want to believe that immediately after the burial, the governor would be able to, announced or probably mention some of the ways that his legacy will be sustained in the state.
And he will have an endearing social and political legacy, as it seems, within Nigeria, as he was very well known to be anti-corruption and anti-terrorism. It seems that both are quite thorny issues within Nigeria, even till the present date. In your opinion, how well did he fare? And also, what do you think the people in Katsina State feel about that as well? We do know that amongst the youth, the temperature has been taken, and there's a few different opinions concerning how people think he has fought against terrorism and corruption. But within Katsina State, what are you sensing?
All right, within Katsina State, there's this word that they often use to refer to the former late president, which is mai gaskiya. When they say somebody is mai gaskiya in Hausa, it means somebody that is very truthful, somebody that is very honest, somebody that is very, that is not corrupt. So these are some of the language that are mostly used to describe the former late president. So for them, yes, we've seen it on social media, people are sharing different views and so on. But from the feelers here, they believe and they see Buhari as one president who has ruled the country, who is not corrupt and who has not taken, what does not belong to him. And they often cite example with his house. I also said it earlier, we were at his residence, and you expect what you expect to see, in the residence of one who was once the former president, who was once the head of state, should be a very large mansion that probably should be able to contain this crowd of people that you are seeing here. But he has a very small mansion that might not even be able to contain, the whole VIPs that are coming for this occasion, let alone, the people of the community. So with this, a lot of people see it, and some who might have even have probably different opinion about his government in terms of fighting corruption, in terms of fighting insurgency force. For them coming here, seeing the house that he owns and coming around again to see other people who are not even president, who are not even head of state, owning mansions that are bigger or that are more beautiful than his own. They feel like, oh, this man is truly what he said he is. And on his own part, as some of them said, that the person of Buhari in person is not corrupt. Well, probably that he is surrounded, or some of his appointees must have carried out some of those acts, but in his own person, he is not somebody. But on the area of insurgency also, they believe that, yes, he was able to take over from the former president then, Goodluck Jonathan, at a time when some of the local governments, either in Borno or some part of the northeast, was at the helm or was in the grip of Boko Haram terrorists, and they believe that, yes, he's coming in, was able to, reclaim some of those territories, and in Katsina also, that he was able to, fight the battle and, to some extent, won the war for these people here.
Now, I'm sure you've spoken with a lot of elites in Katsina State regarding the former president, Muhammadu Buhari. I'm wondering what lessons you think can be learned, or what lessons do they think can be learned from Buhari's leadership style and approach to governance, particularly in terms of his transition from military rule to democratic rule?
Okay, well, like you pointed out, we spoke with some of the dignitaries. Yesterday, we were privileged to speak with the former Senate president, which is Ahmed Lawan. One of the key things that he said about the former president is a man that is devoid of materialism. And like I pointed out earlier, also, he was citing, looking at the house where he lives, that he is not somebody that is, that loves material things, that wants to accrue wealth to himself. That was from Ahmed Lawan. We also spoke with Rotimi Amechi, the former governor of Rivers State, who holds a traditional title in this town, often referred to as Nang Amana of Daura, meaning a son who is truthful, someone who is truthful of Daura. So he also pointed it out that this man is somebody that lacks, that has the courage to do what is right, that gives people the opportunity to excel, that gives the people the opportunity to carry out what is expected of them without, putting pressure, without, putting an eye in quote on some of the things, that he gave them a free hand, to do their work. And he also pointed out also that Buhari also is not corrupt. We spoke with his spokesperson also, Garba Shehu earlier this morning. Garba Shehu earlier this morning also, who also mentioned a lot of things which he's going to miss, particularly his humility, how humble the late president was, and how he was with him in the hospital, and even assured him that he was going to probably attend his book launch. We also spoke with some of his grandsons, granddaughters also, and they all shared, the impact that their grandfather and their uncle played on their life, how he was able to influence them to do something what is good, while he was able to influence them to do that which is right. So he hosts a lot of people that we have so far interviewed or spoken with here. They've all had a positive response. They've all had positive words to say about the former late president, Muhammadu Buhari.
And Nisi, you've been there, Ayo, you've been on ground for quite a while. What has struck you particularly? What has been one of the more memorable moments that you've encountered so far in your couple hours of covering this event?
I would say what has really encouraged me so far has to do with, the love, that these people have shown towards the late President Muhammadu Buhari. I said it earlier that before now, people said the security personnel, operatives said, people will not be allowed to come here. But these people were so resilient. They've been here since about 7 a.m. A lot of them have been at the place that was barricaded, insisting that, look, we just have to be here. And I want to believe that if he has not really played a positive impact, or if he has not really played a good role in the life or in this community, this crowd that you are seeing behind me will have chose to sit at home. Where I was just discussing with one of our persons, you know, it got to a point that these security operatives have to be chasing them out. And I was telling him, can't these guys just go home and monitor? So long this thing is going to be shown on most national TV, can't they just go home and monitor? And he was like, no, you don't really understand. These people just have to come. And I was even jokingly saying, the person they are even coming to show their support and love for is not even alive again to even see what they wanted to do for him. But he was telling me that, look, this man has played a significant role in their life, and they will rather, you know, wait and see what will happen until they are allowed. And you can see it here. From what you have seen here, truly tells that this man is someone that has really played a positive role. So it's a challenge, you know, personally for me, that while we live on this earth, we must make a positive impact in the society. We must make a positive impact in our society, so that, because we will always be remembered by what we lived for.
Well, Aya, thank you so much for that beautiful report.